Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet an island girl, she might Jxxiii wind up.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank Jxxiii for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. My guest today is Kevin A. Dunlap. Kevin is a business strategist and coach for small business owners and solopreneurs. He predominantly works with solopreneurs who are coaches, trainers, and industry professionals like realtors, yoga instructors, or anyone who has their own intellectual property that they want to share to the world. He formed his first company in 1999 after being downsized from a job in the corporate world, and he's worked in several industries. He now shares his knowledge with his students and clients. In 2022, Kevin formed Optimal Performance Academy, where he operates a training company that is focused on educating entrepreneurs through one of their coaching programs, online educational courses, or through his live training events. His company tagline, building better business solutions, and they're determined to help entrepreneurs to stop struggling in business and to start building a brighter business future. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Deepak. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So we're gonna get into your background a little bit, and which I didn't mention in the bio, but in real estate and that sort of thing. But I like to start off my questions or the interviews with, when kids go to school, like I want to be a fireman or a policeman or maybe a doctor or a lawyer. All my guests have kind of untraditional, let's call it, careers or that type of thing. So how did you get to maybe your first career and then like now kind of what you're doing now?
Well, how I got to it is that after I left the graduate school, I got a job as a computer programmer, and then I worked a couple of gigs because we were a company that was a subsidiary of IBM, and then we would go and do a gig work at, say, at a bank or go to a tool company or something along those lines. And I was working on a project I called Y2K at the time, and then I ended up going on to taking my 2 weeks of vacation, and this was in June of '99, obviously. And my job at that one subcontractor was ending. They're going to have to find me another gig, so I decided to go. Since I was going to be I'm going to be just sitting around, let me just go take a 2-week vacation. I ended up taking 3 weeks vacation, and my boss was okay with that. And then when I came back, like 2 weeks later, my boss said, well, we can't find you any more gig work. You did not earn that second week of vacation. We're taking that out of your final paycheck, as well as that extra week that you took off. We're taking that out of your final paycheck, and we're letting you go with a zero severance package. And then that was my last time I had a corporate job, a full-time corporate America job. Because I realized at that time there is no stability in corporate America, or the corporate world, depending on whichever country you're in. And that's when I actually started doing I found a sales company, or network marketing company, that I was really passionate about. And that was my very first exposure into being an entrepreneur. And that would actually lead later on to starting getting into real estate investing, where I moved from North Carolina to Las Vegas. And for 18 years, I ran 16 years, I ran a real estate consultation investment company. And eventually I became a realtor as well. After the pandemic, I ended up moving to North Carolina, and that's where I started my coaching business, because I was taking my many years of being an entrepreneur, of how do you grow a business both personally or physically, as well as online, and I'm using those skills now to teach other people to help them grow their businesses.
Got it. I just want to piggyback on something you said earlier. So, many of the listeners will know that, I started in the corporate world as well. And I remember one time, just kind of back to that stability thing. I remember I'd worked at a company, I'd worked my way up, I'd been there for 13 years. And then I left, and they had done a major acquisition 2 years prior, I believe. And it was a terrible decision for that company. They basically doubled in size, trying to blend two cultures together, et cetera. Anyway, I ended up leaving on my own accord for a junior company where I thought there'd be more growth and everything. And I remember my mom saying, like, why would you leave? The stability and blah, blah, blah. And within 6 months, the department that I'd left, the person they replaced me with was let go. All his peers were, the department was slashed. And then over the next subsequent years, that company just did layoffs after layoffs. And it was all just because of that poor decision to do that acquisition, put on too much debt on the company. And that company is now a shell of what it once was. So yeah, to your point, there's no security in the corporate world for sure. So Optimal Performance Academy. Let's I guess why did you form it? What was the basis of going this route after being a realtor and all that and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I got out of real estate in early 2020 before COVID shut down the entire world. And then I was wanting to say, what is it that I wanted to do? And I did for a part-time job in early 2000s. I was a college math teacher at two different colleges. That was part-time job for like 2 or 3 years. And one of the things I really learned, when I was a math teacher was I loved learning, or I loved educating people. Even when I was an undergraduate, I was getting my degree in mathematics, and I worked in the math lab as a part-time job, and just sitting there going from table to table, like let's help you with how to solve getting a common denominator, or how to do the quadratic equation, or how to do a triple integral in calculus 2 or calculus 3. So I loved that whole idea of just helping the other people and giving, and seeing that light bulb go off when they finally understand something. When I was thinking about the forming Optimal Performance Academy, I was thinking back about my education days when I was a college math teacher, and where I just loved helping other people, because I see so many people struggle in different areas of their business. And a lot of that is because they just don't know what they don't know. And then they may actually even know that they don't know in some cases, and just helping them get through those hurdles, helping them to start, maybe pushing their comfort zone a little bit, start doing something a little bit different in order to get a little bit higher level of success, or getting a different level of success. Because the thing is, I'm sure everybody's heard of the whole Einstein quote saying that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And the thing is that if you want different results, you have to do something different. And that's the whole thing, is, just helping those people figure out, like, what is it you're doing? What are you doing right? What you're doing wrong? What can you be doing to take your business to that next level, regardless of whatever it is.
Yeah, Kevin, I love that you said that. I think there's too many people, regardless if they're solopreneurs, the people you work with, they're in corporate America, whatever, wherever country, or whatever they're just whatever they're doing. I think too many people have blinders on, and they just, they think they know everything. And, and I think one needs to have an open mind to realize that, like, yeah, there is things I don't know, and I don't know what I don't know. So that's number one, that, right? But then that next level of awareness is like, okay, I know I don't know this at all. So now I'm going to find a mentor, a coach, leader, what have you, to help me fix my blind spots or educate me and everything. And that's that next level of awareness, which I see most entrepreneurs know that. I'd love to get your take on this question. I see most entrepreneurs know there's things they don't know, but then they get stuck and they still can't take that next step to figure it out on their own, hire someone to mentor, coach them, what have you. And then they just in the same spot they were 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever.
We do talk about that. As you may know, I know Deepak knows, but for the listeners, I've written 4 books, and my third book is called The Winner's Code: Secrets to the Winner's Mindset. And I say that there's positive mindsets and there's negative mindsets, but there's one mindset that I think is by far the worst one to be in. I mean, it's okay if you're going to be a mass murderer kind of mindset thing, or you're the
hopefully we have none of those listening to the show. But anyway, yeah, continue, Kevin.
But the one that I think is the worst case scenario, and this is where a lot of people fall in either their business, their relationships, or even their career or jobs, is what I call the drifter mindset. They're just going through life. They're not doing anything different. They're just stagnant. And that's where I see a lot of people are, is that if they're not making change, not, incorporating new ideas into their business or their careers, they're just drifting through life. And the thing is, the next thing you know, a year goes by, 2 years go by, 5 years go by, 10 years go by, and there's been no change. And the thing is, once you become aware that you're in that drifting lane, let's just call it, then it's like, okay, what can I do now to get that energy going so that I can actually be more positive, or more of what I call the winner's mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And, as many people know who follow me for a while, I'm an avid reader. I quite often do book reviews on various topics, and I like reading about various topics, primarily nonfiction, because I think you can learn something from everyone. And sometimes when you have a variety of interests and learn from different topics, sometimes these pieces come together, and something from I'm just going to make something up here on the spot here, but something for some concept from real estate you can apply to some other industry, or vice versa, or something in something you read in some sort of book, and you can apply that to your relationships. And the possibilities and permutations are endless there. But I think, again, it goes to your point, the mindset of being of a growth mindset and wanting to learn and better yourself, whatever that may be. And of course, we're all at different places, so me going to another level is different than you going to a different level is different from somebody else going to a different level, but it's all about, I think, improvement. So I think we're in the same mindset in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So maybe you can tell us now, Optimal Performance Academy. What does it exactly do? We kind of touched about it in the bio, but maybe let's dig a little bit deep. What do you guys actually do there?
Well, this is an academy, a school, basically that I'm getting the ball rolling. And what we do is we have some online courses, and we have different tracks. At the moment, right now, we have 6 different tracks that we work on, from introductory to business to essential business to online. If you're going to have an online business, if you're going to become a speaker, if you're a person that designs websites like WordPress, as if you want to build your own SEO presence out there. So I have these different tracks. We also provide group coaching programs as well as private coaching as well. So we have these different levels of education depending on the individual as to what their needs are. Now, I do sometimes put together a unique private set of coaching, because somebody may come to me and say, "Hey, Kim, I want to learn how to become a public speaker." Like, okay, well, that's not one of my programs. However, I can actually tailor-made, pull stuff out of each of my group programs and make a tailor-made course for them as well, or coaching for them as well. So my vision with the academy is to actually become a quote unquote academy, where people can come to, depending on where they are in their business. If they're startups, they're 5 years or they're 10 years, and they want to start getting an education, then they can partake in one of our programs. They could come to maybe one of our workshops or one of our master classes that we're going to be holding in the future. Or maybe they say, "Hey, I see this course that you have. Let me go and buy this course, and I can watch it whenever, maybe at 2:00 in the morning." So there's no need of me to interact with them. And there's other people who say, "Hey, I want it to be somebody to hold my hand and take me to that, to take me to A to B to C to D to E to F." And then we have our group coaching programs, which are for that. So it all depends upon the individual. But the overall goal is to start creating a lot of content so that people can use that content to enhance their business and possibly even enhance their personal lives as well.
Okay. So it's kind of top of mind, because I just saw this on social media this morning. Someone that I'm connected with posted in a group that we belong to about, and again, this group's kind of intended for entrepreneurs, so kind of, your audience, and certainly, let me take a step back. So our listener base is quite diverse. So this question might only be tailored to a select few, but I think we all know people who want to start their own business. So even if this is not speaking to you, somebody, maybe it's your kid, maybe it's your wife, or your neighbor, or what have you. So the person posted in this group, about budgeting and sort of having your accounting dialed in for your small business, your solopreneur business. And again, I come from an accounting background. So I guess my question to you is, in your intro level, or somewhere in your tracks that you spoke about earlier, is there about kind of running your intro accounting for solopreneurs, and just making sure people can actually keep track of their expenses and if they're making money or not?
I have not created a course on that specific topic as of yet. However, I do have a course. Oh gosh, what is it called? Well, I do have a course that talks about understanding where your budget is, and and creating, say, your business plan as well. So I do have courses that touches on looking at your finances, but I don't have actually a budgeting a course as of yet. That would be a good idea to go and either create one myself or have somebody be a guest a professor or a guest teacher to write a course that we can do a profit share on. But yes, I do feel that a business, when they're at the startup phase, they need to know what their initial expenses are going to be before they actually make that investment to decide to start a business. Now, that is something I do talk about in one or two of my courses. But I do feel that it is important. You do need to do, a snapshot, at least a monthly or quarterly snapshot of where your income is versus your expenses to make sure that you are on a positive cash flow. Because if you don't know what your budgets are, then you could very easily, as you said earlier, you could very easily run out of business. You may actually have to shrink because that is not, because you did not budget your expenses all that well. And that's also comes true when we are talking about if you're going to be trying to expand, are you going to make this investment for this course? Are you going to take this? You need to have those budgets in your mind as well. Now, there is one thing I do talk about a little bit in one of my courses. I call it the 7-bucket system. And essentially what that is whenever you have money coming into your business, that you actually, you split it up into 7 different buckets. One could be your investments. One's going to be your long-term goals, your saving goals. One is going to be your business expenses, your personal expenses, tithing. So all these different areas that you need to be looking at, because one of the things I feel about, and I really started using this right before COVID hit, was to have at least 7 different bank accounts personally. And the reason being is, like, say, if I've got a bank account that's just for education, and then let's say I had $20,000 in just a regular savings account, or I had $5,000 in 4 different accounts, and I have, let's say, $5,000 in my education account, and then something comes up that's going to cost $2,000. Well, then it's a no-brainer. You can say, well, do I want to invest it out of that $2,000, out of that $5,000 you have in there? But if you had it all in $20,000, like if I put the $2,000 there, to me it's a much more difficult decision because you don't have your money attributed to the areas that you need to have it in. So I do talk about that.
Okay, that's very good. And a lot of courses don't even touch on what you do have in the course already, so you're already a step ahead in that regard too. And the 7 buckets or the 7 jars, I think that's very T. Harv Eker-esque, if I'm not
that's where I got it from.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's I think I've taken some stuff in the past as well. Awesome. Yeah, and we can talk about this offline, but I think I think there's probably opportunity there, and I can maybe connect with some people who kind of maybe do that business or that accounting piece, and just to the audience too. And I've certainly shared this, and when I've been on a podcast, I've been a podcast guest, come from the accounting background, and certainly kind of understand that, but sometimes when you're starting a new business, I publicly say, it's like, I made so many mistakes. I used money in such dumb ways at the beginning because I didn't know what I didn't know. I spent money on things in the first months that I probably shouldn't have spent on until I was 2 or 3 years, into my business. And it wasn't like it was a poor decision. It was just the wrong timing. So I think just having a better understanding of those type of things really makes sense. And then another thing too, more specific to maybe coaches, I guess it can really depend as well, but I think also from knowing your budgeting and your accounting and sort of planning that out, and we don't always know what's going to happen, especially when we're starting out, how many clients we're going to get, but it can be a useful tool to also understand how much you need to charge. You obviously got to play within the market that you're in and those sorts of things. But I see so often, I'm certainly guilty of this myself. At the beginning, I charged way too little. I just started and I was like, maybe the little imposter syndrome, and I didn't charge enough, then. And then you're like, oh, I have all these clients, but I'm not charging them enough, so I can't even cover my expenses or whatever. It's obviously going to vary. So, yeah, so I love what you're doing and that sort of thing. Maybe tell us what are one of the other tracks? We've kind of been focusing on the last couple of minutes on just sort of like the business and understanding where your money is. But what are some of the other tracks that you have in the Optimal Performance Academy?
Well, one track that is what I call the WordPress and SEO track, which is basically, it's just building your WordPress site. What kind of plugins should you be using, and obviously every business is going to be different. Some people are going to need some of them will be needing others. And the reason I always talk about building a WordPress website is that, in my opinion, and this is of course just my opinion, is that when you build a website on most of these other platforms, you're getting the website and you design it and it looks all great. But you don't get all the bells and whistles. Like on WordPress, you can build it. You can get something like Elementor, and you can build the exact same drag and drop kind of website, but now you can, let's say, hey, I want to add this other little feature, this other little upgrade. Well, that's just another plugin, and you just start adding these other plugins into your website. So now it's like now you have a smartphone instead of just a cell phone. That's the reason. That's one of my tracks there. Another one that I have is a speaker and training track. So people who are looking to grow their business by say, hey, I want to start talking on stage. Now, how do you create your own signature talk? And then also part of your signature talk is something known as what I call your transformation story. And this is going to be, it's that way when you're giving your talk is how do you actually be able to identify with the audience without saying, oh my gosh, the person on stage is this guru person. But now you can say, I'm just like you. I'm going through the same stuff that she did. I'm just a couple of steps ahead of you. That's all it is. So there is a speaking track as well. And in my opinion, if you've been in business for a few years, why are you not on stage? Why are you not sharing your message on stage? Instead of saying, hey, let me try to get this one client, why don't you go help to get on somebody's stage? We're going to be in front of 100 people. And let's say you have a 10% closing ratio. We just got 10 people in an hour and a half. Yeah, so it's like, that's taking your business to the next level. Now, startups, I would never tell a startup person they have to go and create signature talks and start speaking in front of large groups of people. But if you've been in business for a while and you've got a proven track record, why are you not on stage? That's where the big money is. Yeah. So that's one of my tracks as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I would say two things I like to say. So, obviously we outlined kind of who Kevin typically works with now, but I mean, that last advice goes to everyone. Like you're a realtor, you're a financial planner, banker, whatever, like you need to be able to communicate with people, and you should be looking for opportunities to speak. And then one other tip I'll give to somebody, I think, again, a lot of our audience is a little bit more, maybe they're a little bit mature for this advice, but we're a very diverse audience. Again, even if you're still working a corporate job and you're thinking about going out on your own entrepreneurship, take every opportunity you can to get on stage. If it's even just presenting in your own company or the Chamber of Commerce or some volunteer thing or some some conference or something where maybe your company's a sponsor or whatever. Take every opportunity. It's just a good skill, and probably a skill we should teach our kids, but that's another discussion altogether. We won't go there. But it also set the stage for when you are ready to finally make the jump to entrepreneurship, if that is something that's for you. So yeah, I love that you offer that as well, Kevin.
And one of the things I also talk about, because you talk about getting on stage, and for those the listeners that may have some kind of stage fright, guess what? There are organizations called Toastmasters where you go and practice. You practice speaking in front of other people. That way, it's not like you're going to say you're giving your first talk. You're going to be in front of 50 to 100 people. Why don't you go join a local Toastmasters? Start going through their system and start getting used to giving a 5-minute talk, a 10-minute talk in front of 7 people, 10 people, 15 people that are there to support you.
Absolutely. And actually, I don't think I've ever shared this before, certainly not on this podcast and on anyone that I've been before. I actually did Toastmasters. So let me take a step back. My dad did Toastmasters from when he was in the business world and he wanted to improve and go up the ladder in his corporation way back when. I did Toastmasters in university. And so they're all over the place. I think where I went to university, I think there was 3 Toastmasters clubs just in the university, and certainly there's a dozen or more in any city, any major city, even some small city. So that is a great point, Kevin. It's a good way to get out there. I don't want to say, because I did it for 3 years in university, and then I kind of went away from it a long time before I got more comfortable in doing stuff on my own on stage. But I think it certainly helps. I can't really quantify that it made me more prepared, but it certainly didn't hurt. So I love that. That's a great advice. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, because I know in pre-COVID, when I lived in Las Vegas, I think there were 64 Toastmasters in Las Vegas, in the Las Vegas Valley. Currently here in Raleigh, North Carolina, because I went and looked and there's like at least 48 in just Raleigh. Wow. So if you live in a town or a city or near a larger city, there's going to be quite a few of them there, and you just go to the one that you feel most comfortable with.
Absolutely. So Kevin, I obviously this show is not about health, but that is my background. So I like to always ask the guests a couple of health questions. What does your morning routine look like, or your exercise routine, or whatever you got going on? What does that look like for you on a daily basis?
For the last gosh, I want to say 12 or so years. My main exercise was actually doing hot yoga. So I would go inside the hot room. At first, it was Bikram, but since Bikram is no longer, I don't think no longer being practiced. Uh, um, uh, Most larger cities are going to have a few hot yoga classes. And the thing is, that if in the hot yoga room, and when I was in Vegas, for an example, it would be set at 104 degrees and like 40% humidity. So therefore, so you're going in there and you're getting a good sweat on. And I don't know about the guys that are listening to this. Yoga is challenging. You would get a better workout by just standing up and doing poses, and sometimes than you would by lifting weights. So, and I like the fact that you're sweating a lot. So you're, in my opinion, you're losing a lot of those toxins through your sweat as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And people have heard me before. I have a full spectrum infrared sauna at home, which I do every day that I'm home. And I mean, there's tons of benefits, but yeah, certainly the detox you get from a good sweat. Absolutely. I love that. Let me ask you this question. It's kind of related. If you could go back and ask your 20-year or give advice to your 20-year-old self or your 30-year-old self, specifically related to health or health practices, like what would you tell your younger self?
My younger self, I would most likely say, make sure you have a healthy diet or maintain a healthy diet, because in my, I don't know, it was around 2010, I was up to 200, nearly 250 pounds. And then I started doing P90X in 2010, and within 3 months, I was down to 180. But the thing is, that took years for me to get that size. So I would say definitely maintain a good, healthy diet as well as regular exercise.
Absolutely, I love that. Anyone who follows my program knows that it's not the first thing I work on with people, but certainly probably the biggest lever that one can pull on their overall health is nutrition. So I love that, Kevin. Mm-hmm. So for the listeners, Kevin has a gift. He has a free course, The Roadmap to Business Success. We'll put the link in the show notes or the description there. And you can also schedule a complimentary 1-hour strategy session with Kevin. We'll also drop that link in the show notes as well as where you can find Kevin and all that sort of things. Kevin, any last words of wisdom or golden nuggets for the audience today?
I'm going to say, don't keep putting your dreams off. Is to actually go after your dreams. That is, to me, is one of the biggest things is of the whole drifter mentality that we talked about earlier. Is to, if you have a desire to start a business or you want, or just to do something different, follow that passion. And if you are more of a logistical person or analytical person, then yes, go ahead and look at the pros and cons and what are the costs and the benefits. But if the benefits outweigh the cost, go for it and follow your passion.
Okay, Kevin, I can't leave it at that. I'm going to add one more, and I want your take on it. So that's awesome advice. Absolutely. What about that person who started their business, but they're like, that perfection mentality, maybe the way to put it is like, oh, I'll really put myself out there. I'll really do my first post. I'll really let my friends and family know I've started this business when I have this in place and this in place. And that never happens. So I love your take on this. I believe like, hey, if it's 80%, like get it out there. And, the market will tell you what you need to fix, but like, you'll never make any progress with perfection. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts is it's never going to be perfect. I mean, because I've written 4 books, and one of the things I've heard from most authors that don't publish their book is they're trying to get it perfect. It's never going to be perfect, ever. I mean, and that's one thing that was actually pointed out to one of my yoga classes, and the yoga instructor says, "This is yoga practice, not yoga perfect."
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it for sure. So I love that as well. So Kevin, I'd like to thank you for being a guest on the Deepak Saini Show. Again, we'll have all of Kevin's links to his social media and the website and his free gifts that he's offered to the audience in the show description and in the show notes. Thank you again, Kevin. Really appreciate you being on the show today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. I'm going to throw it back to Jxxiii, who's going to guide us out with some nice music. Thanks for listening to the Deepak Saini Show. Again, exceptional results for the exceptional you. Take care, everyone.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company,